Obfuscation rules the scientific study of quantum physics. If what they were doing was properly communicated to the general public, we would recognize those in charge of CERN as modern alchemists. The ancient study of alchemy was the norm in the ancient world, covering several philosophies and spanning over 3 continents during about 4 millennia. Over time, it was largely passed up for more credible sciences such as chemistry. However, many of the same themes still apply, especially in quantum physics. One of the main goals of alchemy was to transmute one substance to another, more specifically base metals to noble metals such as gold or silver. Ancient alchemists also had the goal to create the philosopher's stone, which was fabled as being a substance that could transmute metals as well as provide immortality to the one wielding it. According to Wikipedia, the philosopher's stone was the central symbol of the mystical terminology of alchemy, symbolizing perfection at its finest, enlightenment, and heavenly bliss. The study and practice of alchemy was obviously not biblical nor Christian, it was of the occult. What's strange is these things are still being sought after today in scientific circles. Transforming one substance to another is exactly what the LHC, or Large Hadron Collider, at CERN does. The LHC is, quite literally, the philosopher's stone of quantum physics. The LHC smashes protons together to form new and exotic particles. The way this works has not been adequately communicated to the general public. Basically, it all starts with quantum fields, the study of which is known as quantum field theory, or QFT. Everything in existence is fundamentally produced by quantum fields. Particles are really nothing more than waves in quantum fields. Matter and energy are essentially the same thing. Of course, there is much more to it, and we will get into those things later, but those are the basics of quantum field theory. When a field has enough energy in a localized area, that spike in energy is what we recognize as a particle. It's not that the energy spike or wave creates a particle, rather, the energy spike is the particle. This is true for all elementary particles such as quarks and photons. When 2 protons collide in the LHC to create a brand new particle, it is not that these protons are combining their substances to rearrange into a new one. What's happening is the protons are being obliterated, and the released energy goes into other quantum fields, thereby creating a wave in a different field, which in turn is recognized as a new particle. There is a conception of the LHC at CERN is basically a giant blender. Throw a banana, some milk, and ice into a blender and you get a banana smoothie. Technically, it's a different thing, but it's made from the same substances you put into it. This is not how the LHC works. For example, a Higgs boson is not made of the same substances as 2 protons. The Higgs boson is something entirely different, made from different materials. It would be like putting a banana, milk, and ice into a blender and getting a diamond ring from it. Experimental quantum physics is quantum alchemy. Physicists are literally changing one substance into another. The LHC can be thought of as the world's largest transmutation machine. Another interesting thing is ancient alchemists believed in 4 basic elements. These were water, earth, air, and fire. From Wikipedia, most frequently, classical elements refer to ancient concepts, which some science writers compare to the modern states of matter, relating earth to the solid, water to liquid, air to gas, and fire to plasma. Modern physicists recognize 4 forces in the universe. These are electromagnetism, gravitation, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. Everything begins at the most fundamental level. If they can transmute one particle into another, it is only a matter of time before they can begin to do this on a larger scale. There is an idea presented in Gonzo Shimura's Age of Deceit 2 that the image of the beast spoken about in the Book of Revelation might possibly turn out to be a type of golem. According to Wikipedia, in Jewish folklore, a golem is an animated anthropomorphic being, magically created entirely from inanimate matter. The word was used to mean an amorphous, unformed material, usually out of stone and clay, in Psalms and medieval writing. Add this to the idea of CERN creating living consciousness with the LHC, As I wrote about in my blog post, the possible implications of quantum consciousness on transhumanism and artificial intelligence. Is there a quantum field of consciousness? And something we will look at a bit later. And we are headed toward a possible fulfillment of the image of the beast prophecy from Revelation 13:15. Are we seeing the beginnings of this type of technology today? Will there come a day when transmutation reaches beyond the quantum level? Is CERN the precursor to a biblically prophesied future of re-emerging alchemy and occult sciences? Or, impossible as it may seem, are we already at the door of this type of quantum future? We must prepare now, for only time will tell. There is a new experiment at CERN on the horizon. This new machine will have the stunning ability to accelerate particles 1,000 times the current acceleration of the LHC. Particle acceleration will be done in a completely new, innovative, and cost-effective way. The new accelerator, aptly named AWAKE, standing for Advanced Wake Field Experiment, will use a technique that effectively surfs particles on waves of electric charge created in a plasma or ionized gas. This technique will allow future accelerators to run at much higher energies without increasing the size or cost of the machine. Most colliders today, such as the LHC at CERN, use giant magnets and electric fields to accelerate particles through a tunnel. The problem is there is a limit to the energy that can be sustained in these types of colliders. If the electric field is too strong, it can cause a spark, which for obvious reasons would be a very bad thing. Plasma wake field accelerators, however, are different. They send a pulse of charged particles through a plasma, which causes electrons and positively charged ions to oscillate. These oscillations cause regions of alternating positive and negative charge, which in turn forms waves that accelerate charged particles. When these charged particles are introduced at the right time, they ride along these waves. Since the electric fields of plasma wake field accelerators are stronger than regular colliders, they can accelerate particles as much as 1,000 times greater. On September 18th of 2015, the council that governs CERN approved funding for the AWAKE project. The latest investment from CERN was worth 2.6 million Swiss francs, or about 2.7 million US dollars, with a total commitment of 21.4 million Swiss francs. These investments are intended to allow AWAKE to test the concept before CERN shuts down for upgrades in 2018. The idea is to inject higher energy protons that have already been accelerated by the LHC into a plasma wake field accelerator to increase the acceleration. There are a few prototype plasma wake field accelerators in existence, but this will be the first time CERN will experiment with the idea. AWAKE will also be the first to use pulses of protons instead of electrons in such an experiment. Protons have a greater mass than electrons, so a proton pulse will be able to penetrate deeper into the plasma, which will create more charged regions, which will provide more acceleration. Of course, this has certain people wondering, since this is a first-time experiment, can the consequences accurately be measured? Is there a potential for catastrophe? Even more, will this be the thing that finally allows CERN to breach spatial dimensions? Will this cause the world to become awake to higher realities? Is it possible that this is the true meaning behind the letters of the acronym spelling awake? Will this experiment effectively become a Stargate, allowing otherworldly beings to enter our world? Will these beings force humanity to waken to a new golden age of peace, prosperity, and enlightenment as they have been promising for millennia? These questions are not as far off as they may seem. One of the top things on the LHC's to-do list is to discover and measure higher spatial dimensions, thereby completely mixing science with religion, as I show in my book, Quantum Creation. What we think of as the spirit world and what science thinks of as higher spatial dimensions are essentially the same thing. The terms spiritual and extra-dimensional are synonymous. With more acceleration, CERN will be even closer to realizing this goal. Whether or not that is a good thing for the rest of us is still up for discussion. Another interesting fact about this new accelerator is the size. Contrary to the gargantuan sizes of CMS and Atlas, the LHC's two main experiments, AWAKE will be able to fit in the palm of your hand. This means it is a much cheaper and far more mobile accelerator that, eventually, other organizations and even individuals could have access to for their own private experiments. Imagine that, a do-it-yourself wormhole maker allowing you to traverse dimensions and attain enlightenment right in the comfort of your own home. As I have stated in previous articles and posts, we are headed for a quantum future. Even though these innovations seem foreign, far off, and even impossible, they are not. They are right on the horizon. It is good for us to start thinking about these things now while doing our best to understand the science behind them. If we give ourselves enough of a head start, we will have an easier time deciding how to react to these things once they are here. Now, physicists admit that while they know much about the quantum world within our day-to-day lives, consciousness has eluded them. Given the discovery of the Higgs boson in 2012, thereby completing the Standard Model, science has unraveled the mystery surrounding the subatomic existence that makes up physicality in our minuscule section of the universe. That is, however, except for the mystery of consciousness. Everything in physical existence is made up of elementary particles known as quanta, the plural being quantum. These quantum particles are created by fluctuations in quantum fields, which is the basis of quantum field theory, as we explored briefly earlier. A field is basically the idea of every point in space with a value. Those values make up the field. A way to think of this is to imagine the temperature in the room. Near the ceiling, where the temperature is higher, the values will be higher, while near the floor they will be lower. The temperature in the room is not a true quantum field, since it is only describing an attribute of the air, but it is a good thought exercise to help get our heads around what fields are. Now imagine a magnetic field. If we think back to middle school science class, we might remember doing an experiment with magnets and iron filings. When we put the magnets together, the iron filings react and actually show the magnetic field around them. If we were to place a value at each point, we would find higher values near the magnets and lower values farther away. The same goes for gravity. The gravitational field closer to the Earth or any planetary body will have higher values, while further out in space, the values will be lower. With quantum field theory comes a few rules dictated by quantum physics. First, every field has a fundamental particle that arises from it. The same thing said in a different way, every quantum particle has an associated field that it comes from. This is true for every field and every indivisible particle. The graviton is generated by the gravitational field. The photon is from the electromagnetic field. The up quark is from the up quark field. The Higgs boson is from the Higgs field, so on and so forth. Another rule is that a fluctuation in a quantum field is what brings the particles into existence. When the values of a field increases substantially enough in a localized area, it creates a wave. That wave is the particle. This is how, in quantum physics, particles can appear and disappear seemingly from nowhere. Everything in existence, fundamentally, is a wave. Quantum mechanics says when we observe the wave, it resolves into a particle. This isn't some magical thing that is happening, it is just a matter of perception. Reality is waves, but what we see due to our limited perception is particles. Of course, these ideas are not communicated very well to the general public from physicists. The reason might best be summed up by the words of physicist Sean Carroll, who spoke while giving a presentation about the discovery of the Higgs boson. He is quoted as saying, "There are particles in the world? No, there aren't. That's the secret that we physicists have never told you. But here I am, I'm going to tell you right now. The reason why you're allowed to think of particles is because of quantum mechanics. The world is made of fields, but quantum mechanics says when you look at the world, you don't see it directly. What really exists, according to quantum mechanics, is immensely richer than the things we can actually observe." This is how the discovery of new particles at CERN with the LHC makes sense. When we think about it on the surface, without quantum field theory, how is it possible to create a Higgs boson by smashing two protons together when the Higgs boson is not at all a part of the proton? If reality was only comprised of particles the way we see them, it would not be possible. However, if we take quantum field theory into consideration, it becomes much clearer. At every point in space, there are dozens of fields. 57 to be exact, according to Brian Greene's The Hidden Reality. When protons are smashed together at incredibly high speeds, 99% the speed of light, it releases energy. That energy has to go somewhere, so it vibrates some of the other fields. If the other fields vibrate enough, new particles can come into existence. To use an analogy by physicist Sean Carroll, it is like playing a piano in one room, and a piano in another room will hum along by picking up on the sound waves from the first piano. Physicists such as Sean Carroll will admit that when it comes to the world around us and on a quantum level, we pretty much know what comprises existence by way of the Standard Model. Of course, this does not apply for unexplained things out in the universe, such as dark matter, dark energy, black holes, and many more anomalous things. This only applies to the world we live in and what we deal with from day-to-day life. All except for consciousness, of course. Consciousness, the state of being self-aware, is something physicists have not come into agreement on concerning an explanatory theory. That is not to say there are not theories out there. There are plenty. There have been theories presented that state consciousness is part of the electromagnetic field, such as semi-theory. Physicists have largely dismissed the idea of the electromagnetic field producing consciousness. However, there is another theory that may provide a better answer. Quantum brain dynamics is a theory that states there is a new quantum field that is responsible for consciousness. This hypothetical field is known as the cortical field. The quanta of this field are known as corticons. If this turns out to be true, it would mean our personal consciousness exists by means of interactions with a quantum field, or due to interaction by quantum particles. Due to the rules of quantum field theory, if the right amount of energy is applied to the cortical field, it could produce corticons. Conceivably, this could be done at particle accelerators such as the LHC at CERN. There are scientists today who are trying to tackle the mystery of consciousness. Given that this could be tested with our current technology, it causes one to wonder what the future might look like if any of these quantum consciousness theories turn out to be true. If corticons are discovered, that would be proof of the cortical field, just as the discovery of the Higgs boson was proof of the Higgs field. There are enormous technological implications to a discovery such as corticons. The solution to how to make artificial intelligence a reality would be realized. This would also provide a relatively inexpensive way to achieve artificial intelligence with limitless resources. All one would need to know is how to manipulate the cortical field and/or corticons themselves to keep them active inside a computer or other technological device. How much easier would it be to create real consciousness out of thin air by manipulating nature rather than spending an unimaginable amount of money to research and develop computer code and software that can handle an artificial intelligence? If corticons are found, it would be far easier and more cost-effective to apply corticons into a machine or to build a machine that can manipulate the cortical field, thereby causing that machine to be conscious, aware, and even alive. This new life would, by definition, be alien in nature. There is a horrifying possibility that came up in one of my interviews on the popular internet radio show The Hagman and Hagman Report. Early in the show, I was asked a question about the possibility of technologically implanting a new consciousness into a person. After giving it some thought, I decided to wait until I had explained quantum field theory and quantum brain dynamics before giving a full answer. After I explained the information contained within this video, I stated, if the existence of the cortical field is true, it would have huge prophetic implications surrounding it. If they were able to discover corticons, they could change how you interact in the cortical field. They could change who you are. Effectively, it would kill your consciousness. It would probably kill you. They could replace your consciousness with another consciousness that they either create in a lab or is from somebody else. Talk about how easy it would be to have a one-world government if they developed something like that. That's one of many potential outcomes that could come out of things they're doing at CERN. There is also a great potential within the transhumanist crowd if corticons are discovered. The discovery of corticons would be the answer of how to technologically transfer a person's consciousness into a machine, thereby enabling that person to live virtually forever. This might very well be the discovery that ushers in the proposed singularity of 2045, if not even sooner. If science discovers a way to explain, manipulate, and even create consciousness on a quantum level, surely our world and civilization will undergo a rapid and intense change that few will be ready to deal with or even understand. This is why we must start thinking about this now so we can be prepared. For more information on the things we talked about in this video, visit my website www.ministudyministry.com. Also check out The Sharpening Report, the internet show that I host, where we interview regular guests and discuss such things. You can also subscribe to me at youtube.com/JoshPeckDisclosure and check out my blog at joshpeckdisclosure.blogspot.com. Thank you for watching, take care, and God bless.